Welcome to medicalocast, the voice of clear medical learning. Today we're exploring Chapter 1, Functional Organization of the Human Body and Control of the Internal Environment, from the Guyton and Hall textbook of medical physiology. Don't forget to like the channel, ring the bell, and share medicalocast with your friends in medicine. Let's start. All right, so we are jumping right into the deep end today, starting with the absolute fundamentals from Chapter 1. This is really the blueprint for understanding how the human body functions at all, isn't it?
It is. I mean, if you want to understand disease, you have to start here with what normal actually looks like. So we should probably start with the big word itself, physiology.
Right. What are we actually talking about when we say that?
Well, in the simplest terms, it's the science of how life works. It seeks to explain the physical and chemical nuts and bolts that are responsible for the origin, the development, and just the day-to-day progression of life.
And that can be for any organism, right? I see it can be broken down into viral, bacterial, plant physiology.
Exactly. But our focus, human physiology, has a very specific goal. It's the bridge.
Bridge between what?
Between all the basic sciences, chemistry, physics, biology, and the actual practice of medicine. It shows you how all the different parts of the body work together through these incredibly complex control systems.
And these control systems are not just abstract ideas. They're running our lives automatically.
Constantly. The book gives these great examples. You get hungry, you seek food, you feel cold, you seek warmth, you feel fear, you seek safety.
These aren't really conscious choices, are they?
Not in the moment-to-moment sense. They are these deep, instinctive drives. They're part of an automatic life support network that's just always on, always running in the background to keep you alive.
It's amazing to think of it like that. Constantly running program.
And the scale of that program is, well, it's staggering. Which brings us to the integrative nature of it all.
The numbers here are just mind-bending. The sources say the human body has somewhere between 35 and 40 trillion cells.
Trillion. With a T. It's an almost incomprehensible number. And think about this. About 25 trillion of those are just red blood cells.
Just for one single job.
Just for one job, carrying oxygen. That leaves trillions of other cells, all with their own specialized functions, from thinking to moving to fighting infection.
And the key point seems to be that none of them work in isolation. Coordination is everything.
It's the whole point. You have coordination happening at every level, from genes programming how molecules are made, all the way up to your nervous and hormonal systems, making entire organs work together.
So the big takeaway here is that the human body is so much more than just the sum of its parts.
That's the core insight. Life depends on that total integrated function. It's all about communication.
And when that communication breaks down, when that integration fails, what happens then?
Well, that's when we enter the realm of pathophysiology. It's the study of disordered function. You see, you simply can't understand what's gone wrong in a disease state until you first understand how it's supposed to work perfectly.
That makes perfect sense. But before we get to how all these cells are kept stable, there was this other fascinating detail in the source material.
Ah, you mean the microbes?
Yes. We talk about our 40 trillion human cells, but we're actually outnumbered by the microorganisms living on and in us.
We are, by a lot. We're basically walking, talking ecosystems. Just in the gut alone, you have somewhere between 400 and 1,000 different species.
And they're not just passengers, are they?
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
They're essential, absolutely critical for our survival. They help with nutrition, with our immune system. We're really just beginning to understand how deep that partnership goes.
So when we talk about coordination, we even have to include these non-human partners.
We do. It's all part of the same incredibly complex society.
Okay, so we have this society of trillions of human and microbial cells. Where do they all live? What's the environment that keeps them all going?
And that right there is the million-dollar question. It brings us to maybe the single most important concept in all of physiology, homeostasis.
Let's break that down. First, the environment itself. The body is mostly fluid, right?
Yeah, about 50 to 70%. And that fluid is in two main places. About 2/3 of it is inside your cells. That's the intracellular fluid.
And the other third is outside the cells.
Correct. That's the extracellular fluid. And it's in constant motion, circulating everywhere. This is what the great French physiologist Claude Bernard called the milieu intérieur.
The internal environment.
Exactly. And here's the aha moment. Every single one of your 40 trillion cells, whether it's in your brain or your big toe, is bathed in basically the exact same internal sea.
And keeping that sea perfectly balanced is the whole game.
That is the whole game. And that brings us to the definition. Homeostasis is simply the maintenance of stable or near stable conditions in that internal environment.
And the key word is maintenance, right?
Yeah.
It's not static. It's a constant, active process.
It's a constant fight, a dynamic process of continuous adjustment to keep things stable despite everything changing around it inside you.
So how does the body pull that off? What does this self-regulating network look like?
It operates in layers.
Mm.
At the very smallest scale, you have local controls happening right inside each cell. Things like regulating when DNA gets copied.
Okay, so that's the micro level.
Then you zoom out a bit, you have chemical communication between neighboring cells. One cell releases a signal that only affects the cells right next to it.
And then you have the big guns.
Then you have the big guns, the nervous system and the hormonal system, which can send signals across the entire body to coordinate organs. And the source material adds a really cool, more modern detail here.
Which is?
The role of extracellular vesicles.
Vesicles, what are they?
Think of them like tiny biological FedEx packages. They're little lipid-bound bubbles that cells release into the extracellular fluid.
And they're carrying messages.
They're carrying specific cargo proteins, RNA, signaling molecules. They travel to distant cells, fuse with them, and deliver their contents, changing how that receiving cell functions. It's another whole layer of communication we're just starting to appreciate.
Wow, so every organ is contributing. Lungs bring in oxygen for the environment, the gut brings in nutrients, the kidneys are cleaning it.
They're all on the maintenance crew for the milieu interior. And that maintenance isn't just a general sense of good enough. It is astonishingly precise.
Which brings us to the regulation of what's actually in that fluid.
Yes. The stakes are incredibly high here. These control systems are keeping things like sodium, potassium, and glucose within an extremely narrow, tolerable range.
And if you go outside that range,
It can be catastrophic, instantly lethal in some cases.
give me an example.
Okay, let's talk about acid-base balance, or pH. It's controlled by the concentration of hydrogen ions. The normal variation is less than 5 nanomoles per liter.
5 nanomoles. That sounds impossibly small to regulate.
It is, but you see why it's necessary when you look at the lethal limits. The normal blood pH is around 7.3 to 7.5. If it drops to about 6.9 or goes up to 8.0, you die.
That is an incredibly fine line.
It's a razor's edge. And it's the same for other things. Take potassium. It's crucial for your nerves to fire. If your potassium level drops to less than a third of normal, you can become paralyzed.
And paralyzed. And what about calcium?
If calcium drops to just half its normal level, your nervous system gets hyperexcitable. You can get something called tetanic muscle contraction, where your muscles just lock up.
And I imagine the brain is very sensitive too, like with glucose.
Extremely. If your glucose falls too low, you get severe mental irritability, even convulsions. These examples really show you why the body dedicates so many resources to homeostasis. Every chapter that follows in this book is basically just explaining how one organ system helps maintain these tight limits.
It's an endless balancing act. So let's talk about the systems that do the balancing, the master control systems. What's the main principle they operate on?
The vast majority of them operate via negative feedback.
Negative feedback. So the system does the opposite of the stimulus.
That's a great way to put it. If some factor becomes too high or too low, too much pressure, not enough glucose, the system kicks in and initiates changes that push that factor back toward the normal value. The response is negative to the stimulus.
The classic example is always blood pressure regulation, right?
Yeah.
The baroreceptor system.
It's the perfect example. So let's say your arterial pressure shoots up. In the walls of your major arteries, like the aorta, you have these pressure sensors called baroreceptors. They get stretched.
And they send an alarm signal to the brain.
Exactly. They fire off signals to the medulla in your brainstem, which is like the control center. The medulla gets the message, pressure is too high.
And what does it do?
It inhibits the part of the nervous system that speeds things up, the sympathetic output. This causes your heart to pump a little less forcefully and your peripheral blood vessels to relax and widen.
And both of those things will lower the pressure.
Right back down toward the set point. It's a beautiful self-correcting loop that's running all the time.
So that's what keeps us stable. But what about the opposite? What about positive feedback?
Positive feedback is a different beast entirely. It's inherently unstable. It creates a vicious cycle. The initial stimulus causes a response that amplifies the original stimulus.
And the book gives a pretty grim example of that with severe blood loss.
A very grim but very clear example. If you lose, say, 2 liters of blood very quickly, Your blood pressure plummets, and your heart can't pump effectively.
Which means the heart muscle itself doesn't get enough blood.
Correct. The coronary arteries don't get enough flow, so the heart muscle gets weaker. A weaker heart pumps even less blood, which weakens the heart even more.
And the whole system spirals downward.
It spirals into total failure and death unless something intervenes to break that cycle.
But the body actually uses this dangerous mechanism sometimes, doesn't it?
It does, but very cleverly. It's
Mhm.
only used for specific temporary tasks where a massive, rapid amplification is needed. And it's always part of a larger overall negative feedback process.
Like blood clotting.
Perfect example. When you get a cut, clotting factors are activated in a cascade. Each step activates the next, amplifying the process until a strong clot is formed very quickly. That's positive feedback. But the whole goal is to stop the bleeding and maintain your blood volume, which is a negative feedback goal.
And childbirth is the other classic one.
Right. The baby's head stretches the cervix, which sends a signal to the brain to release oxytocin. Oxytocin causes stronger uterine contractions, which stretch the cervix more, which causes more oxytocin release.
And it just keeps amplifying.
It amplifies until the baby is born, the stimulus is removed, and the loop stops. So you can see how the body harnesses instability to achieve an ultimately stable outcome.
So, bringing this all together, let's summarize the whole concept from this chapter. The idea, the automaticity of the body.
I think the best way to think about it is as a social order, a society of 35 to 40 trillion cells. And every single cell, tissue, and organ has one shared responsibility.
Which is to maintain the internal environment.
To do its part to keep that extracellular fluid perfectly stable. As long as that happens, the entire system functions harmoniously, automatically, without any conscious thought from us.
That's the essence of physiology right there.
It is. And the flip side is also true. When one system fails to do its part, every other cell in the body suffers. Moderate dysfunction is sickness. Extreme dysfunction is death.
Okay, that's a fantastic overview. Let's just lock it in with the 5 key takeaways from this chapter.
Sounds good. So first, physiology is the science that explains the physical and chemical factors that make life possible.
Second, human physiology is that critical link uniting basic biology with clinical medicine, all through these complex control systems.
Third is homeostasis, that dynamic, continuous maintenance of a stable internal environment through nervous, hormonal, and local feedback.
Fourth, those nearly 40 trillion cells aren't just a collection. They're a coordinated, integrated network working to maintain that stability.
And fifth, and this is key for medicine, when homeostasis fails, that's when pathophysiology begins. It is the basis for understanding all disease.
It's crystal clear that the body is in a relentless fight to maintain these very stable set points. Which brings us to a final provocative thought. We've been talking about homeostasis, keeping things stable, like your body temperature.
Right, a fixed set point.
But what about things like body weight or blood pressure? The source material hints that some of these set points aren't actually fixed. They're designed to be adjustable. It's a concept sometimes called rheostasis.
So the body can adapt to long-term changes in the environment, like famine or chronic stress.
Exactly. This flexibility is critical for survival. But here's the dangerous paradox. The very mechanism that allows us to adapt also makes us vulnerable. Because if that adjustable set point shifts too far, if the body gets used to maintaining a chronically high blood pressure or a pathologically high body weight, the control systems can start defending that new, unhealthy state as the normal. The very system designed for flexibility can lock us into chronic diseases like hypertension or obesity. The tool that saves us can also be the one that traps us. The human body is a society of trillions of cells guided by continuous communication to maintain balance in life. You've been listening to medicalocast, making medical science simple and clear. Hit like, press the bell, and share medicalocast with your classmates. Stay tuned for our next chapter.